Hello and welcome to this lesson on the law of cosines. Alright, law of cosines. If we know the length of all three sides of a triangle, or if we know the length of the sides and the measure the angle between the sides, then we can use the law of cosines. So the law of cosines, we've got three formulas. One of them is a squared is equal to b squared plus c squared minus 2 times b times c times the cosine of a. The next one is b squared is equal to a squared plus c squared minus 2 times a times c times the cosine of b. And the last one is c squared is equal to a squared plus b squared minus 2ab times the cosine of c. Now, to use these, if you have to calculate the length of side A or the measure of angle A, then you're going to use the top equation here. If you have to calculate the length of side B or the measure of angle B, then you're going to use the middle one. And if you have to calculate the length of side C or the measure of angle C, then you're going to use the bottom one. And again, a reminder how I'm labeling my triangles. Capital A is angle A, capital B is angle B, capital C is angle C. Little a is the side opposite angle A, little b is the side opposite angle B, and little c is the side opposite angle C. So let's take a look at example 1. For the following triangle, the length of side A is 9, the length of side B is 12, and the length of side C is 16. So we have the length of all three sides, and we want to find the angles. So to find angle A, we're going to use that top formula for the law of cosines. A squared is equal to b squared plus c squared minus 2 times b times c times the cosine of A. Plugging in our values, that's going to give us 9 squared is equal to 12 squared plus 16 squared minus 2 times 12 times 16 times the cosine of A, which gives us 81 is equal to 144 plus 256 minus 384 times the cosine of A. 144 plus 256 gives me a 400. Subtracting my 400 from both sides, 81 minus 400 gives me negative 319 is equal to negative 384 times the cosine of A. To get the cosine of A by itself, I'm going to divide both sides by that coefficient, the negative 384, and that gives me the cosine of A is equal to 0.83072917. Taking the inverse cosine of both sides, this gives me angle A is approximately, well, the inverse cosine of 0.83072917, which gives me A is approximately 38.8 degrees. So if I know all three sides, I can find an angle. Now let's do the same thing for angle B. So for angle B, we're going to use the middle formula. B squared is equal to a squared plus c squared minus 2 times a times c times cosine of B. Plugging in our numbers, I get 12 squared is equal to 9 squared plus 16 squared minus 2 times 9 times 16 times the cosine of B. 12 squared is 144, 9 squared is 81, 16 squared is 256. 2 times 9 times 16 gives me 288. 81 plus 256 gives me 377. Subtracting 377 on both sides, 144 minus 377 gives me a negative 233 is equal to negative 288 cosine of B. Divide both sides by negative 288, and this gives me cosine of B is approximately equal to 0.80902778. If I take the inverse cosine of both sides, that ends up giving me that cosine is approximately 36.0 degrees. Now, since I know two of the three angles, instead of using the law of cosines to find the third angle, I'm just going to use this property that the sum of those angles is 180. So 38.8 plus 36.0 plus c is equal to 180. Adding my two angles, it gives me 74.8 plus c is equal to 180. And then subtracting 74.8 on both sides, that'll end up giving me c is equal to 105.2 degrees. So if you know the length of all three sides of a triangle, you can use your law of cosines to find the angles. Alright. Now, the other place where we can use our law of cosines is if we know the length of two sides and the angle between those two sides. So if you remember, B was along the bottom of my triangle, C was that slant on the left side, and A was the corner on the left side. So we have angle A is 40 degrees, the length of side B is 8, and the length of side C is 12. Now, I decided to find the length of side A since I didn't know that one. So to find the length of side A, I'm going to use that first formula for my law of cosines, which is a squared plus b squared plus c squared is equal to 2 times b times c times cosine of A. Plugging in my values, this gives me a squared is equal to 8 squared plus 12 squared minus 2 times 8 times 12 times the cosine of 40. Grabbing my calculator, that calculates to a 60.919466692. And then if I take the square root of both sides, that gives me the length of side A is approximately 7.8. Now, I'm going to use the middle formula to try to find angle B. Now, since angle B requires that I know what the length of side A is, well, I rounded A to 7.8, but when I do this calculation, I'm going to use the lengthy number. The reason why is if I use this rounded number, I'm going to be off by quite a bit. So, I have 8 squared is equal to this 7.8 long decimal squared minus 12 squared minus 2 times the 7.8 long decimal times 12 times the cosine of angle B. So when I start doing my calculations, I get 7.8 something squared plus my 12 squared gives me 204.9 something. And then when I multiply this 2 times 7.8 something times 12, that ends up giving me this big long decimal. Alright, subtracting the 204.9 on both sides, that ends up giving me a negative 60.919 is equal to negative 93.661. Divide both sides by the negative 93.661, and that gives me the cosine of B is approximately 0.6504243641. To find angle B, I'm going to take the inverse cosine of both sides. And when I take the inverse cosine of both sides, this gives me angle B is approximately 49.4 degrees. Now, I know angle A, that was given to me in the problem. I just found angle B. So now I can use that property of angles, or triangles, to add those two angles together to get me 180. So 40 plus 49.4 plus C is equal to 180. So it gives me 89.4 plus C is equal to 180. Subtract my 89.4 over, and that gives me C is approximately equal to 90.6 degrees. Thank you for watching this video on the law of cosines, and I will see you next time.